Good afternoon and welcome to Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, coming to you live via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. Very excited about the show today. My guest is a serial entrepreneur and best-selling author, Jeet Banerjee. Very excited about having him on the show. And I didn't put this in the promo, but he's a TED Talk speaker. And any of you all who know me know that I'm a huge, huge fan of TED Talks. So I'm a TED Talk nerd. So I'm excited that he's also a TED Talk speaker as well. I want to welcome to the Facey chat so far, Jerry and John and Dwight. Hi and welcome. Hey, Doug. So, hi, Renee. Listen. Hello, Lucas. I had my news report, my Money Talk news portion of the show all set and ready to go, and then somebody raided the president's attorney's office. So much for that. So much for that. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad. I'm so mad right now. So yeah. So and we're talking about President Trump's personal attorney, whose name is Michael Cohen. The FBI raided his office. And you guys know I'm not like a humongous, huge necessarily fan of President Trump's personal antics. You know, I'm okay with his policies, but I'm not. But this really ticks me off. It's ridiculous. Like, they are way out of bounds. They should not be, I mean, in my opinion. Like, what Stormy Daniels have to do with anything? Hi, Randy. Hi, Sam. Hi, other people who came in the chat if I missed you. I just don't, I don't know. I'm finding it super annoying. And yes, Renee, holy crap, the FBI. And part of the reason why I'm mentioning that is because the stock market had been doing fairly well throughout the day. And then that happened. And I think it ended up maybe up. I have to see how the stock market ended today. I forgot to check before I got on the air, but it had been up most of the day, and I don't think it went down, but it definitely lost its momentum today. So it only ended slightly higher, but it was up like 400 points at some point today. And yeah, the FBI raided his personal office, and it supposedly is in reference to Stormy Daniels, which, I mean, no one cares. I don't think anybody cares about that any more than they cared about Bill Clinton. And, you know, Bill Clinton's activities were in the office. Ridiculous. Randy says the liberals are in desperation mode. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Kim says, when will the witch hunt end? I mean, it really is. I don't, that just made me super mad. They haven't found anything, and now they're in his personal lawyer's office. And here's the other thing. Like, right, exactly, Renee. It was 12 years ago. He wasn't even the president. But they're saying that he might have used campaign money, which makes absolutely no sense. The man's a billionaire. $100,000 is not that much money. Why would he break federal freaking law over $100,000? That's like me, you know, doing an armed robbery for $100. That, like, is stupid. It's just dumb. So I don't, but yeah, that happened within like the last hour or so. That happened. Yeah, that's not good. Not good. Why would he be giving his salary? Thank you, Kim. Like, he has the money. It does not make any. Somebody said that to me the other day. Well, what if doesn't it bother you? He might use campaign funds. I was like, he's a billionaire. Why would he break? And most of the money he used to fund the campaign was his own money. Like, none of that makes any sense. So why would he use campaign money when he's got his own? And I would imagine Melania probably has her own. I would imagine his son-in-law has his own. I mean, there's plenty of money around. Hey, Carol, welcome. Hey, Adrian. There's plenty of money around. So it does not make any sense to me that he would use campaign money. I mean, I'm not like I'm not hardly a nefarious, you know, money criminal, but like, if I'm his lawyer, why wouldn't you just make his fee a certain amount of, like, if you were going to hide it, I can think of 12 ways to hide that money. I mean, just I can think of 12 ways to hide that money, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying that they could get away with it. It doesn't mean he's his personal lawyer. Literally, that's all this lawyer does. So I don't know. It's cray cray, if you ask me. Some housekeeping items that I have here. I always forget to tell you guys about what's on the calendar. Let me see who my guest is tomorrow. My guest tomorrow is Joe Applebaum. Very excited about having him on the show. He's another fantastic entrepreneur. That's going to be my guest tomorrow. Wednesday, I have on my schedule to schedule a re-air. Oh, because I'm going to a meeting at church. I know. My church has this bridge program in April, and they're doing like this special on prayer. So I'm gonna have to do a re-air Wednesday because I'm doing that. And then the 12th I have a meeting, and the 13th I am participating in there's a statewide NJGOP New Jersey grand old party leadership summit this weekend. And since I am on the host committee for the African American GOP Coalition, that's one of my new titles. And I'm the vice president of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women. I'll be attending that conference, and I'm also involved in some panel discussion during that conference that they have not told me about yet. So I'll be doing that, and hopefully they're going to tell me what the panel discussion is about so that I can speak relatively intelligently on Friday. We'll see on Saturday at the actual summit. So that's what's going on there. Exactly, Renee. There's 50 ways to hide your money, and none of these people are stupid. And it's $100,000, not even a lot of money. Drives me nuts. Thank you, Doug, for the congrats. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Very excited about that conference. So that's what's going on the rest of the week with Money Talk with Melanie. Unfortunately, you'll have to do some re-airs after tomorrow. I'm sorry. Just a busy girl. What else is going on? I don't think there's anything else on the calendar. I know, Todd, another flipping title. GOP is life. And I'm running my county call center again, which I do not really want to do, but I am. Oh, thanks, Renee, for the congrats on that. So election season starting early because it's midterms, and that's what time it is. That's what we're doing. We get a little bit of Money Talk news and news report because there's important stuff happening. According to the Wall Street Journal, Americans are going to pay a lot more for gas this summer. Less than delighted about that. It's going to be the highest price since 2014, according to the Wall Street Journal. Average prices across the country reached $2.70 a gallon. Ooh. So that's definitely no good. So that's happening according to the Wall Street Journal. What else do we have? Oh, Mark Zuckerberg's testifying today. I didn't hear all the deets about what happened, and this is according to a Reuters report. He was meeting with lawmakers like one-on-one today, so that in preparation for his testifying tomorrow. That should be interesting. That should be very, very interesting. And I want to add one more thing before I go to break. The Justice Department is investigating whether or not some university early admissions programs violate antitrust laws. Apparently, the schools were colluding. There's that word again. And about acceptances. And that could violate federal law. Go figure. Oh, my goodness. Kim said they're at $2.89 in Oregon. Ooh, good grief. Okay, you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Jeet Banerjee. Very excited to have him. He's a baby. He's only 24 years old and a serial entrepreneur. So I think we do well to take his advice. I'm very excited to have him. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome to this week's Money Talk Minute with your business diva, Melanie Collette. This week, we talk 2 ways to be properly insured. 1. Get more life insurance on top of your employer's policy. This is because often employer insurance is not sufficient to cover your individual or family needs. Number 2, get renter's insurance. Many people overlook this inexpensive but important coverage. Renter's insurance typically covers robberies, vandalism, and natural disasters. But what many people don't realize is renter's insurance may also cover things like medical bills if someone gets hurt at your place, damages you cause at someone else's home, and rent if you have to stay somewhere else because of damage done to your apartment. And that's all for this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 2 p.m. West on SHR Media, High Plains MoneyTalk Radio, and streaming live on Facebook.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition. Certain government officials remind me of an extreme case of tonsillitis. LOI? Ron Edwards on today's page from Edwards Notebook. Your tonsils are an important part of your body's immune system. They battle non-stop against invading germs and viruses that seek to wreak havoc, especially in your throat area. But there are those occasions when the tonsils succumb to extreme battle fatigue and no longer fight to block the microscopic invaders. In fact, sometimes the tonsils must be removed in order to ensure the recovery of the patient because they've joined the other side. Just as corrupted tonsils that no longer protect the body must be removed, some government officials like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, and many others no longer even try to properly carry out their duty to protect America from enemies both foreign and domestic. In fact, many elected officials have become so corrupted like bad tonsils, they are now part of the open border debacle that literally endangers the survival of our republic. McConnell and others are more aligned with and loyal to illegal border crossers than we the people who elect them and pay their decent salaries. Thus, like bad tonsils, they too must be removed. I'm Ron Edwards. Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Ron Edwards, the new voice of America. And don't forget to catch the Ron Edwards Experience right here on SHR Media and High Plains MoneyTalk Radio every Friday right before Money Talk with Melanie at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to introduce my guest, but first I'm going to give you a brief bio. I do want to acknowledge what's going on in the chat. People asked about how I feel about what's going on with Diamond and Silk. And some people who are close to me know that I'm not a huge fan, and maybe listen, if I didn't think I'd get a bunch of hate mail, I'd do a separate Facebook Live video about why. But I would get a hate mail, and like I think I would lose half my friends list. But I'm simply not a fan. But what's happening to them is not fair. I'll just say this briefly. There are some of us who've been in this fight, so to speak, as conservatives, and particularly as a minority conservative for quite some time, and have worked very hard to make sure that African Americans present themselves in a certain way. And I feel like they are counter to that. And I find that bothersome. I'm more of a Condoleezza Rice, Mia Love kind of girl. And I'm not trying to throw shade. That's how I feel about it. But what is happening to them is not fair. If you want Diamond and Silk content, you should be able to get it in Facebook. Fascist book has absolutely no business doing that. That's not cool. All right, that's all I'm gonna say about that. I'm done with that. Let me tell you about my guest today, Jeet Banerjee. I asked him how to pronounce his name before we got on the air, and I messed it up still. He's 25 years old now. He's a serial entrepreneur, TED Talk speaker, digital marketing consultant, and a best-selling author. He began his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 17 and has launched a handful of successful businesses and even sold 2 companies for a profit since then. And today he's going to talk to us about how to build an epic online business. So I'm very excited to talk to him. And without further ado, welcome, Jeet Banerjee. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
I'm so excited. Let me turn your volume up a little bit. There we go. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Very, very excited. Hopefully, if you guys in the Facey chat, if you can't hear me, okay, let me know. But I'm excited to have you on the show. Is there anything in your bio that you wanted to tell the audience that I didn't mention?
No, yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I can't believe how young you are. I'm intrigued on a number of levels. I kind of don't know where to start. Let's start here. Let's start with the fact that you were 17 when you started creating businesses and you became an entrepreneur. What was the impetus for that? Like, why didn't you go get a job at McDonald's? Why did you become an entrepreneur instead of, just going to get a regular job?
Absolutely. So I kind of grew up in a very traditional family and household growing up. So when I was 15 years old, my dad actually told me one day, just woke me up and was like, hey, food, shelter, basic necessities, got you. But if you want to play the latest video game or go to the movies with your friends, whatever it is, that's on your own dime. So basically his head telling me I got to go get a job. So at the age of 15, I got my first job. And from the ages of about 15 to 17, I worked 12 different jobs. I started to think that something was really, really wrong with me because I was getting fired or quitting from every single job. It was 2 years. It wasn't like I was working crazy hours, maybe like the 15 hours a week, couple hours after school. And it was just a bunch of various jobs from tutoring, telemarketing, door-to-door sales, personal assistant, kind of name any odd job that 15-year-olds can get. I did it, hated it. And what really hit me was the fact that my big plan in life so far was when I graduated from high school, I want to go to college, get a business degree, work a corporate job, and I thought everything would be glorious. Just wasn't able to work a simple couple-hour-a-day job. That's when I knew that something wasn't right. So at the time, I was terrified because I thought something might be wrong with me. I started kind of Googling so-called symptoms, and I came across other people that felt the same way. That's when I kind of got introduced to this world of entrepreneurship. That's what really kickstarted my journey.
They were like, that's because you're not a worker. You are an entrepreneur. That's what your problem is. If you want to call it a problem, right? That was the diagnosis, that you were an entrepreneur masquerading as a regular, Joe worker.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Well, so what was your very first business at the ripe old age of 17? Once you figured out that you were an entrepreneur, what was your first venture?
Absolutely. So my first business was actually I created a multimedia agency. So I wanted to offer like web design, web development, and like online marketing services for businesses. I picked up a lot of skills and a lot of understanding of this sort of business because one of the first jobs I worked, I was like a personal assistant. I also tried working as a product design. That was probably the longest job I had. I did that for maybe like 3 months or so. I learned a lot about that industry, and I felt like do things a lot better than that company did it. And then I started to realize that this was a common problem in that space, where the biggest issue that I noticed with multimedia agencies was that there was a ton of great talent overseas, like Philippines, India, and wherever the country may be. Due to the language barrier, they weren't able to really convey their services to companies here. They were extremely affordable. Companies here were extremely overpriced, and due to the language barriers and most business wanted to work with someone they could really talk to and understand, they ended up getting a lot of this business. The whole concept was to kind of bridge that gap, hire a bunch of talent overseas, kind of am like the spokesperson, so to speak, sales guy here. So, and I can cut the prices, and that's what the essential concept of my first business was. And we just went out did really well right off the gate. And eventually, within 2 years, I was able to grow to like 20 plus employees. I was able to sell the company for a profit. Yeah.
Wow. So basically, what I hear you saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you saw a gap in the market, basically.
Exactly.
You saw a gap in the market and you thought, let me take advantage of that. And was it easy for you to identify that gap or not? You know what I mean? For you to come up with that, or had you been looking for a gap to exploit, so to speak?
So yeah, absolutely. So once I actually kind of figured out that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own business, the idea that I kept relating to was that I knew it had to be something involving the internet and tech. Because even growing up, like when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I built my first website just for fun. I always had like a knack to the internet and to web design, web development, and learning about tech. So no matter what, that my concept had to be something tech related, just because that's something that was kind of second nature for me. And then I just kind of it was a fairly short process, maybe like 2 weeks or so, just really thinking and brainstorming. And the one thing that I could constantly think about was when I worked my job at that other web design company, that man, they were charging so much money to do some things that were so simple. Like oftentimes they would bill their customers like $120 an hour to like do some very, very basic like HTML changes or something like that on their website. They would pay me like $10 an hour and be like, hey, can you fix this real quick? Do it in like 15 minutes, and I'm seeing these guys bill them for $120, and I'm like, wow, that's insane. That's really where like the inspiration came from.
Now, I have to laugh, and I'm sure some people in my audience are as well, when you're thinking about, you built this first, did you say you were 8 or 9 when you built your first website?
Yeah.
Listen, I have to laugh because I have a website of my own. I'm 47 and I teach technology for a living. And sometimes the struggle is all the way real. I'm not going to lie. When I am working with my website and I'm like, wow, I guess I could have reached out to him when he reached out to my local 9-year-old and figured this out. No, that's fantastic. That's great. That's great. I love that. And is that what your TED? I didn't get a chance to watch your TED Talk, but I'm definitely going to go back and look at it. I TED Talks for me are like Pinterest or any, eBay, like anywhere else that you go, and the next thing you know, it's like 3 hours has passed. So like I have to be careful going to the TED Talk website. So I didn't see your talk today, but what was it about?
Yeah, so without kind of like, I guess, doing the spoiler on it, trying to watch it. Basically, I wanted to understand why, like, what dreams that people have, and when they set out to pursue their dreams, the people that don't pursue their dreams, why they don't do it. Really, just like almost like a case study where I created like focus groups, talk to people above the age of 25, under the age of 25. Just wanted to understand this whole idea of chasing, why people do it, why they don't do it, and what their limitations are. And I basically just share my case study on that in the form of a TED Talk, and the results are extremely, extremely surprising.
So if you guys go to TED.com and put in his name, I'm sure you'll find it. Charlene in the chat says, intelligent young man. Indeed he is. Indeed he is. I love that. And listen, TED Talks are not easy. There's a long application process. I have a friend who, like, every time she sees me, she's like, you really should do a TED Talk. She's like, you have so much to offer, you should do a TED Talk. I looked at the application process and I was like, good Lord. It's not easy to become a TED Talk speaker, but it's on my bucket list. Absolutely is. So if you go to TED.com, and the thing about TED Talks, and I've said this on my show before, is that they're really brief but very powerful talks on a wide range of subjects. So they're great, and congratulations to you for that. Let's talk.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yep, indeed. Let's talk a bit about your business models, your actual business. I was on your website yesterday and a little bit today. Is the name of your company the Income Incubator? Is that the name of the entire?
Yeah. That's the name of my latest company. Yeah.
Oh, right. Your most recent one. My bad. Right. Is the Income Incubator, and you help businesses. You help people start really good online businesses, successful online businesses. And one of the things that you say on your website is that you have to develop a mindset required to achieve incredible success. Now, obviously, you have to buy the deets. You gotta sign up. But can you give us an overview of what that means to develop a mindset required for incredible success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially when it comes to business and stuff like that, I don't think like anyone. People ask me this question all the time: can anyone just start a successful business and be successful? And I tell them, no, absolutely not. Because you want to do it isn't necessarily always enough. They have to have like the right mindset, principles, and things like that. And for me, I like to tell people that when you start a business, for the most part, especially early on, really becomes like a lifestyle. It's not just like a career. I know like a lot of people look at it as like a career change, but I almost look at it as like a lifestyle change because a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. And I also like to say that like change and comfort don't really go together, right? To be comfortable, you're probably not going to change your life in a positive way. If you want to change your life, you're probably not going to be comfortable for a few years or whatever it is to be able to achieve that change. So I really talk about like those kinds of things when it comes to mindset and kind of in terms of like a shift and your entire approach. Because when you start a business, no 9 to 5, there's no guaranteed paycheck, there's none of those things. I remember when I first started out that I'd be working 70, 80-hour weeks, and I wouldn't get paid. I have to pay my employees first, I have to pay my bills first, and at the end of it, if there's nothing left, then there's nothing left, right? So I think it's like kind of talking a lot about those things and kind of mentally adjust to those things and how you can kind of constantly stay motivated and essentially keep your eyes on the prize and be able to finally eventually get there. And that's kind of mindset and principles that I talk about a lot early on in my academy.
I feel like mindset is probably more important than, you know, the nuts and bolts stuff like do a business plan and a market study, you know, those basic things that they always tell you in business school, right? That you that you have to do when you start a business. But I think, you know, as a millennial, you probably have a fresh look at that, right? Like, do you think that a business plan is required? How long? Traditionally, they say 5 years, but I've had entrepreneurs tell me, you know, what, really a year, 6 months, and then, you know, it's a work in progress. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to like really traditional business launching methods and stuff like that, I'm completely opposite to all that. I really don't believe in like business plans and things like that. Like I'm not against it, but it's something that you don't need to get your business off the ground. So I spend that time and that effort and that energy doing it. So I'm all about like efficiency. And when it also comes to a business, like a lot of people tend to have like 5-year plans, 3-year plans, and all that stuff. I'm totally against all that because I feel like with a business, find out if you're going to fail or succeed as quickly as possible, right? My thing is like in the next 3 to 6 months, can we launch this business? Can we get enough data and feedback and validation? See if this is going to be successful and if this is worth spending a ton of time on, or if this is not going to work, there isn't a market for it, there isn't demand for it, or it's not a valuable problem that's being solved. So when it comes to really starting a business, like my approach is very, very different than like many other like traditional business school books and things like that I've read and learned from in the past have said. I've kind of based these off of successful entrepreneurs models and things like that I've followed, and from like my own experiences and learnings in my own journey.
So your business plan, if you have a business plan per se, like what kind of business plan do you, if any, do you recommend? Like what kind of planning would you recommend someone does?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to planning, I really focus on the vision because I think the vision is the most important part of business. So I try to really those types of things out and create a map, so to speak, of like, end of the day, what is my vision with this product or this business or this, what is it, the final goal that I want to achieve? And I start there. From there, it becomes really easy to break down smaller goals. It's yearly, monthly, daily, or weekly, because everything that I do now every day contribute to that big vision or that big end goal. And that's how I can judge if a task or something is worth doing or not doing, so to speak, because if it doesn't lead to my end goal or it doesn't have a direct correlation with my vision, then I can say, hey, this is something that I say no to. That's another like very important thing that I've learned is like the importance of saying no, especially in my business and when it comes to managing your time and being efficient. That's probably the one biggest thing that I try to plan out and focus on. And aside from that, I'm like a big data and metrics guy. So pretty much everything else, I just kind of leave to like data and metrics. So I'm trying to launch a basic version of my business idea, like a minimum viable product, so to speak, and trying to go and put it out in front of customer spaces, whether it's trying to collect money for it, collect signups, whatever it may be, kind of learn through that process to see how it goes and to understand whether or not a business may be successful, or if there's tweaks that need to be made, or if I'm completely on the wrong page and this is going to be a fail and I need to start completely afresh.
So it sounds to me like it's important that when you have a vision, that it's important to be open and willing to adjust that vision according to customer needs, or the marketplace, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
Because I feel like sometimes we're like, oh, you know what, this is a great idea. Everybody could use this. And it turns out actually like 2 people could use what, you know, whatever it is that you were thinking might be an awesome idea. And sometimes it's, you know, the technology, so, you know, it's hard to identify the problem. So are you, I would imagine you're troubleshooting along the way to get like the optimal results.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's the best analogy that I like to use with people is like it's like jumping off a plane and building your parachute on the way down.
Oh, that's
so,
awesome.
You know that the end goal is going on to the ground. How you get to the ground really matters, and you got to figure it all out in there. So it's the best analogy I like to use.
That is not an analogy I'm comfortable with. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna make things up. No, listen, I'm twice your age, so things look, jumping out of an airplane maybe 25 years ago sounded awesome. Not so much now. It's not. Not sure I can even get that insured at this point. No, that is actually a really good analogy. So one of the things that you talk about is how to create your own brand or own product line. I think we talked about this a little bit as far as finding gaps in the market and looking to fill those gaps. But what if you want to create your own actual brand or a line of products with your name on it? Do you have any advice for people who want to do that?
Absolutely. That's like one of the biggest modules that we really cover in the Incubator Academy. And we go like step by step from conception all the way to like you get to a point where you're hopefully being able to make 7-8 figures, something like that. My biggest advice for people when it comes to that kind of thing is to be intimidated so much by, because a lot of people when they think about creating their own brand, they think, man, I'm going to need tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. I can confidently tell you that I've been able to start a brand of my own less than $1,000, right? So my biggest advice for people is not to be intimidated at the thought of creating their own brand, creating their own product lines, because it's a lot easier, and there's a lot that you don't understand. Like, let's say you walk into a Walmart and you want to buy some dish soap. Most think, man, that company that got their dish soap front and center in Walmart, they must have crazy that they were able to do that. It's something I can never do. It's insane once you really get in depth and you focus on creating your own brand. You probably find that the same manufacturer that makes that dish soap that's sitting in Walmart, your own company. All you got to do is just switch the label out, the different design of a bottle, different quantities, maybe tinker with ingredients a little bit. It's something that's very cool by an average person, and that's what I think many people get intimidated by, and they think like only like superior people or really smart people or really wealthy people can start a business like that. But that's absolutely not true. In today's day and age, it's very, very easy to do it. There's so many plethora of options when it comes to finding suppliers, manufacturers, and really creating your own brand.
Well, particularly with the internet, I would think, because now we have access to wholesale markets overseas and things, at the click of a mouse, and I would imagine that some people, a lot of people, who want to brand their own things probably reach out into those markets. But we and we have access to a lot more information. Like you were saying, I'm just thinking about your dish soap, easy for me to say, analogy. And you might think, I really like this product, but how can I change this one thing? You could probably Google it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And figure out how to change one thing. How can I make it smell like sage? Or something stupid like that. So, and the next thing you know, you have your own brand.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I actually never thought of that either. I had never heard that before. Now you have a module. Now this always sounds kind of hokey to me, and we're up against the break. But I want to throw this out there before the break. Another module in your academy is to build multiple six-figure businesses. Now, whenever people hear that, I'm sure I'm not the only one. You're like, yeah, right. That's sure you can. So I want you to talk about that when we get back on the other side of break. The boss man just came in the chat. Sackhead Sean, how are you, darling? We're about to go to a break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Jeet Banerjee. He is a 25-year-old serial entrepreneur, author, and also TED Talker. I don't know TED Talk speaker. There we go. And we are delighted to have him on the show today. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how legally hiring your spouse and children can slash your taxes. Learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the benefits of setting up an exit plan, how to avoid getting audited, and how to legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Visit TaxMama.com. Click on Ask a Tax Question to get free answers to your tax and business questions. That's TaxMama.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Audience here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard something like the Sackheads? Yeah, I could probably do that better. Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcast. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey guys, this is Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Check us out every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network.
And this is Sackhead Clint, is the best looking one of the bunch. It's my duty to remind you to check us out on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to check us out on the SHR Media Facebook page. The best looking one? Really? You gotta go there.
Every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the SHR
Choice. I
Media
have the award right here.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest today is Jeet Banerjee. I don't know why I'm struggling today. I think it's because I'm a little tired. Jeet Banerjee is our guest today. I'm very excited to have him. He's a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, TED Talk speaker, and he's a baby in my book. He's only 25 years old. I'm very excited to have him on the show today. Before we broke, Jeet, I asked you about building multiple six-figure businesses. And I feel like this is something that we see on people's websites a lot. And, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily authentic. What makes yours, I checked you out, I know yours is authentic. So what is it about your philosophy behind how to do that makes it authentic, that makes it work?
Absolutely. So I'm super glad that you asked that question because I love answering that question. I think that's a very good question. The thing that I like to start off by talking about is oftentimes like people go to college, right, and they get a college degree, and based on the college degree that they're pursuing, they'll be kind of given like a kid, or they'll have a basic understanding of, I make $80,000, you're working this job or this job, $25,000 a job, or on average, it's like a median salary. Students go out and do this. Now, anytime when it comes to like a median, whether it's 6 figures, 5 figures, 7 figures, whatever it is, basically got people that exceed that amount because they're far superior with their work, more hard work, whatever it is that they have that they bring allows them to excel. On the end of the spectrum, we have individuals who aren't able to get it all figured out, they're unmotivated, lazy, whatever the case may be, and then they're kind of on the bottom tier of that, and then you have everybody that's kind of in between. So when it comes to like building your own business or thing of that nature, my whole philosophy on that is that, number one, I'm not looking to take in all students. That's like one like big thing that I like to let people know is that like only if I feel that you're a right fit, you have the right approach to this, I'm going to accept you as a student within this academy. That's like the first thing. Second thing that goes with my philosophy is that I know there's a bunch of people out there that false promises, make false guarantees, and things of that nature. I think the biggest issue is that a lot of those individuals may not necessarily have done something themselves, that accomplishment that they try to teach somebody else to do. I think that's the biggest differentiator with me. It's like any business that I've started and that I've been able to do, I'm never going to teach somebody else that, right? I might write a blog post about it, share my lessons and experiences, but I'm never going to charge money to teach somebody else that. The only things that I teach are businesses that I still run to this day, that are doing successful and doing well and earning those kinds of numbers. And that's my goal, is to show people step by step how I did it and how they can kind of reciprocate that success in their own way. And I think that's kind of a couple things that really differentiate me. But I think it just comes down to like being able to achieve those numbers. Like, for example, like I was reading a statistic the other day, like just people on Amazon that are selling physical products. I think there is like a couple million people that are breaking over $1 million in revenue per year. So when someone kind of tells me like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, well, there's 2 million other people that are doing it. What do they have that you don't have, and what can you do to close that separation or be just as good or as better than them? And those are the kind of things that I like to look at, are based on statistics. Yep.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That does. That makes a lot of sense. I understand exactly what you're saying. Let me ask you, and I'm glad you clarified that, because, you know, like I said, I feel like when people see that, you're like, yeah, sure you can. At least that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I see that. I'm like, because everybody would be doing it if you could do that. But as you pointed out, you realize and recognize that everybody can't necessarily do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me ask you about this. And I really wanted to make sure that I got to this. And selfishly, because I've been toying with writing a book myself. I'm told, I don't know, a couple times a week, you need to write a book. So I really want to ask you about creating ebooks. And is it really difficult or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that it really depends on is kind of like the topic that you want to write on, right? Like I know some of my students that have started, like, I don't know if you guys remember those like yellow and black books back in the day, like a dummy's guide for blah, blah, blah. Somebody that like created like a book that's very similar to that, where it's just guide on like random little things, like short guide on how to garden, short guide to how to make healthy dinner, whatever the case may be. So like it just really depends on the content of the book. I know like student makes like 50 pages or less, really short comprehensive guides and books, and those are very easy for them to do. If you're talking about like kind of like writing a book on a very subject or on a very like true expert subject, kind of something that I've done in the past. Now that process, it's doable, definitely something that's achievable, but it's a longer timetable, right? When I wrote my book, it took me 6 months just to write it, and then it went through 3 months of editing, and then 3 months the entire publishing and marketing and promotion process. So it was almost like a year of hard work and a considerable amount of time that I spent just to get one book out there. So it really depends on like, you kind of want to create the ebook. Are you trying to build a brand like a publishing company? Are you trying to just create like a book under your name that's like very deep? Are you trying to create like fiction stories? It really depends. Like, like trying to write the next Harry Potter, for example, that's going to be a considerable time investment, may take 2 years. So it just really depends on like the extent of what you're trying to do.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you think about, do you think that people are more likely to read short ebooks as opposed to your Harry Potter type books? How do you feel? I feel like I know I've had a few guests on who already had ebooks, and when I read them, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I was surprised at how simplistic the books were. I guess that's probably the diplomatic way to put that. You know what I mean? And they were like successful ebooks. Like, had a lot of downloads and things like that. So, I do some freelance writing as well. And one of the outlets told me you got to write on you got to write on like a 6th, 7th, 8th grade level to get to the public at large. Would you find that to be the case with ebooks if you're going to pursue writing an ebook?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think about that is that there's an audience for both sides, right? Like from what I've seen with my publishing company specifically, and what we've learned over the years is that kind of the younger audiences, when it comes to a topic, want something short, to the point, and quick read. And those are the same types of people that also prefer ebooks. The other thing that we've seen is kind of like the older audiences that are kind of looking at more of a niche topic, something very specific, not as broad. They like the longer books, they like the paperbacks and the hardcovers, and physically having a book with a bookmark. So I think it just really depends on figuring out who your audience is, like who your ideal audience for a book is, and really just talking to them and understanding the market. Like, you can look at other competitor books that are appealing to that same audience, see the ones that have 5-star reviews, why people like them, and people might say, like, this was very comprehensive, gave me a ton of information. And other people may write a 1-star review on a competing book, and that says, didn't really learn too much, wasn't in depth enough, was looking for more information. You kind of get that idea that, hey, in this specific niche, I want more content, more of a comprehensive experience, versus vice versa. And you'll even see the opposite end of that spectrum on reviews, where some people say, man, this book was so long and so drawn out, I just really wanted to know the basics. Boom, that's kind of a key that, hey, maybe this other strategy is going to work for that. So I think it just comes down to really like analyzing your audience, who you're writing the book for, and really catering it to their needs and philosophy.
That makes a lot of sense. And you just brought a question to mind. I was thinking about how, back in the day, probably before you were born, when you had to do market research, it was a really intensive project, right? But what you just described is like, to me, like market research for your book done via Amazon, right? Right? Like you can do market research for your book in like an hour on BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon or whoever. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many ways to do research nowadays, like so quickly. Like another example might be like, let's say you have like a niche that you're very familiar with. Just go on Reddit. Reddit's got a subreddit for every niche, and literally just post a question. And oftentimes I've just posted a random question about a business idea or something that I'm wondering from a specific niche of people. And like my post will go trending. Like people start having arguments, people start going in depth and debating and all this kind of stuff. And within like an hour and like 2 minutes of work, got maybe months worth of data and research. Just got at my fingertips thanks to the internet. So I think it's a great resource to utilize. Forums, review systems, book groups, Reddit, subreddits, all that good stuff is a great way to conduct market research, whether it's for a book, really anything when it comes to business related, and you just want to find data to see if there's a viable market for it.
I have to have you on my show just to do, I know Reddit is not obscure, but probably for my audience it is, and it is for me. And I'm a big social media person. I am on Reddit and I'm on Tumblr. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I have on either one of those sites, I freely admit, I have to have you back maybe to just talk about maybe the most current social media sites are more, because I know Facebook is like, old people site now, like people like me, like in their 40s. But I used to teach computer programming, and my students would tell me the same thing about Reddit and Tumblr. Like those were their favorite places to be. They're like, yeah, my mom's on Facebook, and he's like, tease me about that, even though I was their teacher, and they told me Reddit and Tumblr are like it. But I do not know enough about them to recommend them. I was like, I'm so confused. I looked at it, it was too much. It was too much for me. So I hope you will come back on to discuss something like that on the show. Just that part of technology I'd love to talk to you about.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left. So tell people how they can get you on their show, where they can get your stuff, most importantly, if they want to avail themselves of your wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to really get in touch with me about anything, read my blog, find out my projects, check out my social media, all that good stuff, is just go to my personal website, which is my first and last name. It's jeetbanerjee.com, spelled JeetBanerjee.com.
I'm posting the link in the Facey chat, and I will make sure I put it in the podcast. I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. Just an excellent job.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Very informative. I have to have you back. I'm serious, just to talk about Reddit and Tumblr. And not for nothing, I'm sure you're aware that Facey is in a little bit of trouble right now, and that there are some new social media sites emerging, and I think you probably would be an excellent person to talk to about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to talk about that.
Terrific. Thank you so much for being on the show. I want to thank everybody in the Facebook chat, all you guys out there in High Plains Pundit Talk Radio and SHR Media Land. And if you have downloaded this as a podcast, which many of you do, I appreciate that, and thank you for being here. I want you to remember that all of this is very important, because after all, it's your money.